Welcome to Forensic Friday.
Where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all.
So part 2 today
Part 2.
of we did this last time. Frankie? It's Frankie.
Frankie. Yep.
Okay, of the Ruby Frankie Jodi Hildebrandt case.
And today we meet Jodi.
I have all the freaking things.
And we have to revisit husband because I'm still processing.
Oh, I can't with the husband. I have more with the husband.
I'm juggling my thoughts about him, and they're all bad. They're all bad. I
don't know
which one is most.
Give us one thought that you have on him.
He's a weenie.
He's such a weenie.
He's a weenie. I feel like he was so worried about being married. Now also, and we're going to talk about this respectfully, but the belief system around the afterlife, I think, plays a role in some of these things. So I think part of his waiting, I'm not agreeing with him one bit. I think he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Putting that out there. But I think he thought if he screwed up his marriage, he wouldn't be with any of his family in the afterlife, which is a really common thing in that religion, depending on which, brand you are. Just like Christian, there's branches. Right. I don't know exactly which branch of Mormonism
you get your own planet. It's a whole
planet brand. I mean, it's a whole and it's okay. Like every faith background has their thing. Yes. But I suspect that was part of it. And don't let me forget to come back to purity culture as well.
Okay. I don't know if I should say this on here.
Do it.
So Karen might need to cut it out. Did I ever tell you about how do I say this? Did I ever tell you about
the guy you made feel bad about Mormonism by asking questions?
Kinda, but it started with a passion of conversing with Mormons.
Yes, you did. You shared the pod.
I did?
Yeah, you just really enjoyed it. And then
I just loved it.
I can't talk to you anymore because I'm questioning my faith.
Yes.
God.
Yes. So
my mom would invite them in and offer to pray with them, and then they would leave. And I'm like, what if you just don't answer the door?
We were when Press and I lived in Denver by Sloan's Lake. These really sweet ladies walked by, and they were LDS on their mission, missionaries.
Yeah.
And we were outside, may or may not have had some wine. And they walked by and they were waving at us. And I was like, do you guys want to come join us for our game? And so they came over, but the game was, I can't remember what game we were playing. Probably Cards Against Humanity or something.
Oh, I was thinking their game. I'm like, oh.
No.
No, I do not want to play your game. Thank you. Anyone. I don't care who you are. I'm not playing your game.
Oh, no. We invited them to come play our game. And they came over for a sec, and then they had to leave because I think it was Cards Against Humanity.
Well, yeah, they can't play that. I mean, it's dirty.
Yeah, and we were drinking wine, but
that was probably more of the issue.
Anyway,
you needed less of the cards.
But I used to have this passion to talk to individuals from the LDS Church. Anyway,
there you go.
So I think where we left off, I'm going to repeat this part because I think this is where we left off last time.
Yeah.
Ruby's response to them losing followers and traction in their social media world was basically that she didn't care and that she wanted to show the world how to parent.
So it's kind of the beginning of the militarization of Ruby Franke.
Correct.
Yes.
She talked about getting back to being a child of God, like herself. And she said, this is how God intended this is how God intended our children to be raised up. Then she would talk about just some crazy stuff that her kids did.
Do you know background on her family and stuff?
No, I don't.
I want that so bad.
I know there wasn't a ton that I could find.
Well, if anybody could find it, it's you, but.
I know. Here's the thing. I think if I were Ruby Franke's family, I would want to keep my name out of anything and everything.
Oh, that's real.
So maybe there's a reason we can't find stuff.
Well, it's like, what kind of hot garbage nonsense went on in her household that this is
Yeah.
that important? Even to be a perfect parent. Like, great. Good for you. But being a
But you
mom,
know
it's
what
like
though? It
when
it
people,
goes it goes with this concept of like we're kind of talking about this earlier, this concept of like perfectionism.
yeah, that's true.
And we talked in our last episode about her chart in her room of all her suitors and how she was rating them and all that. And I
Your
think
chart of men.
yes, chore chart. Oh my God.
That's what it was. I
I keep saying chart.
saw on many a chore chart.
Chore chart
Chore
of
chart of
men.
men.
Yes.
Boy Scout, check. Obsessed with
So,
check.
and this gets into the part, and you kind of mentioned this, where like, this is the beginning of when she starts to feel like her kids are possessed, and
Yes.
it just starts to get really kind of weird.
Yes.
So you wanted to come back. I have literally listed next to this idea of purity culture. Do you want to talk about that now or later?
Ooh, it depends. How close are we to when she kicks her son out?
Not super close.
Okay, then I'll wait.
Okay.
It comes up mostly with that.
Okay. So Jodi, we are to where we talk about Miss Jodi Hildebrandt.
Terrifying human.
She's a whole freaking thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you and I were literally just talking about this because I was like, I have to fact check myself, but I'm pretty dang sure that homegirl isn't who she says she is at all.
No, she's not a psychologist. And I could have sworn she was, honestly.
Yeah, no, she's not. So that's what I kept feeling. I was like, I don't think she's actually a psychologist.
Mm.
So I'm going to just share this with our followers and listeners. So she was a devout follower of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
Well, here's a little fact about her. Her dad was a pilot in the U.S. Air Force.
Okay.
So she comes from structure, potentially
Yeah.
some, pretty harsh parenting, potentially. I don't want to assume,
Yeah.
but
Possible.
possible, probably very like regimented and,
Mhm.
structured.
Yeah.
So in 1996, she graduated from Brigham Young University
Hmm.
with a bachelor's degree in arts and I'm sorry, with a bachelor of arts in English language and literature.
Okay.
So she can, she's well read. That's how I interpret that.
So am I. I'm well read English. English is
Yeah.
one of mine.
Is it one of your
Yeah.
degrees, your undergrad?
Psych and English literature. By the way,
Nice.
you have to read some weird stuff to be an English literature major. I wonder how they handled that at Brigham Young. I went to Boulder, so I read all the weird stuff. I took a postmodern one. I
A
didn't sleep
very different school
as
than Brigham Young.
every weird thing you can imagine they made us read.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very different school.
Yep.
In 2003, she graduated from the University of Utah with a Master's of Arts in Educational Psychology.
Okay.
Her master's thesis was titled Experiences of Latter-day Saints Women and how their culture influences their manifestations of sexuality.
This is the most ironic thing I've ever heard in my life.
I know.
You know how they say when someone tells you who they are, believe them? Like the first time?
Yeah.
This
Yes.
was a cry for help.
Yes. It's so funny. This is so off topic, but I was having a conversation relatively recently. It's not like super recent, but relatively recently. And they were talking about this person that they dated. And they were like, yeah, he would tell me, like, he doesn't like to do these things. He doesn't like to do this. He doesn't like to do that. And it's like all simple tasks.
Yeah.
And she's like, I thought he was kind of kidding. So we just kept like dating and then they got married and then they got divorced. Because she was like, because that was really who he was. And I was like, you thought he was lying?
Yeah.
He literally told you who he was. So, like,
Yes.
y'all, it, you know,
They tell you believe them. It's a simple.
sometimes face value says everything,
Yes.
you know? Okay, anyway, that was off topic.
No, I'm with you though.
So, Miss Jodi was a Utah licensed counselor.
Yes.
So, basically LPC in Colorado.
Yep.
Not she wasn't in Colorado, but that's what we are here. I don't know if they call it an LPC in Utah. And
Which is
she
what
got
we have, right?
yeah, she got her
Our
license in
equivalent.
2005.
Mm-hmm.
In '07, she founded the relationship and counseling business Connections in Utah. So that was like her business.
In theory, I think her thesis is fascinating, of course.
Yes.
But that's because I know what is to come. But
Yeah.
so in theory, she's a licensed therapist setting up a practice
Yes.
with an interest in family services. It's interesting to me that it's educational psychology
Hmm.
and she's a licensed mental health worker. But she's really trying to focus in relationships, parenting, that kind of thing. And that's not really the focus of her degree, from what I can tell. But
Correct.
she can do it with her credentials at this point.
Yes. So in 2012, she was the director of Lifestar Utah Country, a franchise of a national company based in Utah that specialized in psychiatric and psychological treatment of pornography and sex addiction.
Hang on. So
Yes.
somehow she's going to go down the path to parenting, but pornography and sex addiction?
Take this in. Well, this fits with how things go with Chad later on.
100%. This is the purity culture piece.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm gearing up. Don't you worry.
Yes. I had to tell you that because I knew it would set you up really well.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. In 2012, her license was also put on probation for 18 months after she disclosed sensitive confidential information of a former client to the church and Brigham Young University.
Oh, no, you can't do that. Are there any
No.
details on what she disclosed?
I mean, probably not because it would be more of a disclosure.
You should probably tell them what we have to report, what we're allowed to report.
Yeah. Okay. So, like mandatory reporting?
Yes. And I don't know the Utah exact rules, but everywhere in the country is sort of this way. These
Yeah. I mean, the
yeah,
main things that we are obligated to report are if there's any sort of child abuse or elder abuse, or there's you want to hurt yourself or someone else, or a national threat. Um, those are like the big things. So anything outside of that, you have to have a disclosure statement in order to discuss any type of confidential stuff with another clinician. And you have to have the disclosure for that specific clinician.
yes.
And
Release.
it would release, sorry, yeah. And
Release.
it's
So you need a release of information about
yes.
what is to be disclosed to whom for what purpose. That's required.
Yes. And it's usually for like supervision purposes.
And there's no override for that for a church or
Correct.
federally that I'm aware of or in the state. You cannot do that.
Correct. Unless there's a release of information that you have permission to talk to
Exactly. Which
those specific
clearly did
humans.
not.
No, clearly not. So the Church of Latter-day Saints announced that Hildebrandt was no longer on their family services referral list due to this case.
Ooh.
So she's already getting a little bit of a
She's a
situation.
little squirrely. She's squirrely.
Yeah, she's super squirrely. Okay. So that's a little history on Miss Jodi. She's a whole thing.
Already.
So my opinion is that she basically preys on people who she sees as weak.
Yes.
Okay.
Is she doing her online thing at this point or no? Because I think it's interesting. She shifted from like community-based services to
Yes.
online at some point.
She did both, I think, for a while.
But she went to like online personality. She sort of became like the end all be all for fundamentalist LDS.
That was later.
Yes.
And it wasn't necessarily for that. It was like her own brand.
The Hildebrandt, if you will.
Oh my God. That was cheesy.
Yay! I
Yay!
have to stay awake somehow. We're doing it.
I know. So it's interesting when she worked, I believe, as a therapist, but I think this might have been when her license was getting looked at. A therapist worked under her and said some weird things would come up with her and other clients. And one of the things he said was that, I mean, he worked under her for a little bit and she wouldn't pay him.
Oh, I remember him in the
Yes.
documentary. Yes.
So he like talked a little bit about that stuff, and then she would, to some degree, like show a bunch of animosity and anger towards men with the couples that she would work with. And then they would not want to work with her, and then they would work with him, the other therapist.
That makes all kinds of sense.
I don't remember his name. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
She would basically, I mean, wreak havoc, wreak
Yes.
havoc on the men, and pretty much break families apart.
Cool.
So then, sorry, so that, I believe that was before she opened Connections.
Yes.
Yeah, so then she opened Connections, which was basically group therapy, like what you and I would see as group therapy.
For the men?
No, for
Oh,
women.
because she ends up seeing men later.
Yes.
Oh, this is going to come so full circle.
No, dude, it's crazy.
Okay, allegedly, I have a diagnostic theory that I'm going to throw out there.
Okay. Do you want to do it right now or no?
No, I'll wait. I'm going to wait. Let me noodle.
Okay. Okay, so she was really good at exploiting Mormon anxiety, being pure, sinless, perfect, etc. So basically Connections was a community of women that she created, and it's super culty.
Mm,
And a lot of the women, if not all the women, looked at her as if she was like their savior.
it's weird.
I know. So then her and Ruby are connecting, okay? And Ruby wanted to get Kevin on board with Jodi and her vision. So Kevin's kind of like, okay, I mean, Kevin's just this like really weak pushover. I can't stand him, to be honest. So Kevin's first exposure to Jodi was to a love versus lust workshop.
Hmm.
So she's literally basically preaching to a room full of women, and it was like a man-hating sermon.
Mm,
Kevin and Ruby at this point in their marriage were in a really hard spot.
mm,
So Ruby asked Kevin to join the man's version of Connections with Jodi.
mm,
Does that make sense?
mm-hmm.
So she's like expanding this to both genders. So she's like, okay, women, like men suck and they're lustful and blah blah blah. And
Now let me take a crack at your husband.
and so then she does that, and she basically reams all these dudes.
Yeah.
And the support group, or the men's Connections group, was basically an addiction, but most of it was around porn and being like lustful.
Well, and I will tell you, that was one of the hardest parts of the documentary for me to watch.
Mm-hmm.
They showed like the men on the screen in this
Yes.
group. And first of all, it's an online thing. I have so many opinions about all that because we've had to navigate telehealth, coming back in person.
Yeah.
We still have to deal with what's appropriate, what's not. But talking about these things in that way with that many men, and I was just looking at their faces a little bit and the format.
Mm-hmm.
So hard to watch.
Yeah, it's cringy. Yeah.
And we work with men all the time, and men are worthy of every bit of the respect and dignity
Yes.
that women get in this regard. And so
Absolutely.
it's actually kind of a conflict of interest, with the exception of sometimes there are therapists. I know a few who are actually really good at this, where actually it's a husband and wife duo that I know of that are great at this. And
Mhm.
the wife works with the women and the husband works with the men, and then they do couples therapy, like,
Mhm.
and they do intensives. So they'll
Mhm.
come out for a week or two and really work through some stuff together.
Yep.
I love that. I think that's kind of beautiful. I like the idea of both genders being represented in the couples therapy. If there's
Yeah.
a lot of conflict, especially around sex, I think it sort of gives
Mhm.
both people a safe person in the room
Yep.
to represent their experience. So, I mean, that's all great. That is not what this was. This was,
No.
I'm going to sit with all of your wives and talk about how amazing I am and how they need to follow me to be like me. And then I'm going to take a pound out of all of the husbands.
Well, that and she would talk poorly about men and their husbands. She would basically say to the women in these big groups, if your man is saying that he's not watching porn or he doesn't lust after other women, he's
Right.
lying.
Right.
And then she would go to the men's group, the online men's group, which I agree was so cringeworthy.
Oh, yeah, not great.
And she would tear these guys apart and then lift Kevin up as a role model.
Mm.
Why do you think she was lifting Kevin up as a role model?
Because she's about to take him apart brick by brick.
Literally.
No, really, it's like, and also this is really twisty psychologically because it's like, oh,
Yes.
you're so honest, you're so great, you love
Yes.
your partner, and then she's gonna flip him like a pancake.
Yes. Then she's going to take over the family,
Yep.
which is what she does.
And
So
then have sex with
and
his wife. Oops, spoiler alert.
whoop, well, allegedly.
Allegedly.
So,
For the hat when I say that one.
yeah, allegedly.
I don't know. Those two are too busy fending off chicks in jail to come after me. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, no kidding. So she lifts him up as this role model in the group. He loves it because he's not getting this type of affirmation at home, right? But it's just super manipulative.
Yeah.
Now, because Kevin's in this group, Ruby gets nicer to everyone in the family.
Oh.
Because also Jodi's working with frickin' all of them.
Yes. Yeah.
So she's also working with Chad,
Well, and
which I'm
yes.
not there yet, really. But she does end up working with Chad.
But as manipulative as Ruby can be and was to get her family famous, I also think she was vulnerable to manipulation.
Oh,
You know what I
1000%.
mean?
1000%. I totally agree with you. I think Ruby's a nightmare, and I think there's way bigger stuff happening
Yes, I
in
agree
her
with that.
brain.
I agree with that.
So Ruby got nicer, whatever. Okay. Then Ruby becomes a coach, like alongside Jodi. So I don't know if you remember in the documentary, they're like introducing themselves, and Ruby goes, "And I'm Ruby,
Yeah.
her sidekick,"
Yes.
right? So she's already kind of putting herself in this lower place than Jodi,
Yeah.
right? And they become, but really, Ruby becomes the face of connections.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby and her family become the face of connections. So Kevin's kind of running the show with the men, right? He's this big role model for them, and Ruby's the face for the women.
Yeah.
Okay. So honestly, Jodi, and I think Jodi knows exactly what she's doing. She's like, they have followers, they have this popularity from before, and I'm going to exploit that and I'm going to use that for my own gain. That's my
Mm.
opinion.
Yeah. 100%. No, I agree with that. And I also think that it feels a little bit like Nixium,
Yes.
the sex cult. It feels like that in the sense that I've helped you. So now you're going to come up and be my underling and
Yes.
be an example of this incredible thing that I had,
Yes.
that I taught you.
Yes.
It's real sick.
Yes. So now Ruby changes her YouTube channel that was called Eight Passengers to Moms of Truth, and it became Ruby and Jodi's thing. It's no longer about Ruby and her family.
Mm.
Yes.
It's about Jodi.
It's not Jodi.
And she becomes very central in the content at that point.
Yes. Also, while all this is happening, okay, and I can't remember exactly when this came into the picture, but Jodi was also Chad's therapist, right? Because Chad
Oh,
was
that's so
acting up.
sick. Yes.
Yes. And Chad is the oldest son.
Mm-hmm.
So Chad was acting up. He was all mad, whatever. And so Jodi becomes his therapist
Mm.
and like creates this bond with him. And it becomes this whole thing,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about things that you and I have talked about a lot. Like when you work with the family, you have to be clear on who the client is. Systems therapist, the client is the family.
Mm-hmm.
We are literally not supposed to do anything with our clients
No,
that has any kind of undue financial gain to us. So that means if I write a book, I cannot require my clients to buy it.
correct.
That's a literal ethical guideline that we follow.
Correct.
Furthermore, when it comes to family systems work, I'm not a systems expert, but I've worked with some great ones. I can speak for myself and say that I very, very rarely will see one person in a family outside of the family context, let alone multiple family members over a long period of time independently, because it gets really, really tricky. And I don't think they were doing a lot of family therapy. So
No.
you've got Kevin in the group, right? And she's both exalting him, but also dismantling him at the same time and their marriage.
Yep.
Um, I think Ruby is completely dependent on Jodi and
Yes.
very heavily influenced by her. And then you have this sweet kid who really, really cared about Jodi and liked her in the beginning, who's also sharing all of his issues and being pretty vulnerable
Yeah.
about his problems. So this is a recipe for disaster, even if Jodi had good intentions.
Yes.
But I believe even if she was in over her head, I think there's enough evidence to say she had terrible intentions from the beginning.
Yes.
This wasn't accidental or incompetent.
No. Well, and that's part of it too. And I forgot to mention this when she was working at her own practice and had that dude working kind of under her. He mentioned if she knew someone had money, she would prioritize them.
Yes, I forgot that part. You're right.
And so I think she knew that this family had money. They had some status
Yep.
and just
They get a call back and maybe another family doesn't, or it takes longer.
and just enmeshed herself with them.
Yep.
I would be curious to know more of Jodi's history, to be honest, because anyway, the manipulation is just so wild. I have to imagine that there was big trauma for her.
Mm.
Or she's just this miserable and she just wants to ruin everyone's lives. Kevin, we're going back to Kevin, okay? As I'm watching the documentary, he shows up in the picture again and he's like in and out, whatever.
Mm.
He is the biggest sissy.
Mm.
I literally cannot with this guy.
Yeah, he is.
He gets on the documentary and literally just starts to paint himself as this victim.
Mm.
Like, he just was blind to everything. I'm curious of what you think about this. As I'm watching this dude, I'm sitting there and I'm like viscerally getting angry because I'm like, you can't be, and this sounds terrible, and I'm sorry this sounds so terrible, but I was like, you cannot be this weak. That's insane. As a man and a husband and someone of faith,
Yes.
whose faith is very male dominated.
Yes.
Like, you can't be this dumb.
Well, here's what I'll say, because I don't disagree with you. As I'm sitting here, though, I'm thinking about how vulnerable our clients are. And you and I talk about this because we give people tough feedback and everything else. When you are wandering around in somebody's brain, in their trauma, in their weaknesses, you have to have a healthy respect for their personhood
Mm-hmm.
Is literally a do no harm. Like we don't take an oath as a therapist, but we might as well. We have ethical guidelines and everything else.
Right.
But the do no harm thing is real. And I think they were up against intentional harm. And as a therapist,
Yeah.
it is so much easier to do that than I think people think. And
That's
he was
fair.
exposing his whole underbelly of issues. He really
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And I'm not excusing he what he has done by
Yeah.
not standing up for his family
Oh, insane.
is a problem.
Insane.
I'm just suggesting that we have a literal trained weapon
Yeah.
messing with him who also knows
Yes.
intimately their faith background.
Well, and he played on his weaknesses and
Yes.
the weaknesses in their marriage. So
Well,
I
and
think it,
exalted the honesty and the vulnerability. So the problem is this is a high. I had this thought, oh, I'm so glad I remembered this because I was thinking this when I was watching. This is a high power group. It's just only her.
yeah,
So like it's not a Nixian because there's not a giant cult. She really took over this family. She messed with other families too, but this
yeah,
family
she did.
is front and center.
Yeah,
That family became a high control group with
yeah,
Jodi at the helm.
yeah,
So if
for
I look
sure.
at it that way, then
There's
Ruby
more
and
empathy.
husband, I think, are victims to Jodi to a degree.
Yes.
But
I
they have
think
a
the whole,
responsibility to their children.
yes. I think the whole family fell victim to Jodi.
Yes.
I just look at Kevin and I'm like, it's hard for me to imagine. And this is the part that I was going to say. I'm lucky, and I think you would say the same about yourself,
Yes.
that I'm surrounded by strong men who are accountable for themselves,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yes.
So it's hard for me to sit and watch a family man who has 6 kids,
Oh, I know. I know.
6 children,
Turn
be
them over to this woman.
be this way. It's really hard for me to watch.
Oh, I get it.
So then 2020 happens. What happened in 2020?
COVID.
Yes.
Oh,
So COVID happens, and they literally thought the world was coming to an end.
yeah, they really did. They thought it was the apocalypse.
And they were excited about it.
Mm,
Like there was an excitement around
mm.
this is it. I think the kids were really scared, but there's an excitement for the adults.
Very weird.
They thought the second coming
You know
was
what? This is an evangelical and apparently
yes.
LDS horror movie. It's
Yes.
like it gets their little nervous systems going and they're like, "Ooh, things are going to get crazy."
Literally.
And then Jesus is going to come. It's going to be
Yes.
great.
Oh,
It's
they thought it was the
weird.
second they thought it was the second coming for sure.
Very weird.
And at
They
this
almost
point,
anticipate the pain too. It's kind of this very weird thing.
yes.
Yeah, I
And
don't
at
love
this point, Ruby and Jody are super close.
it. How
Okay.
close, Nat?
We're not there yet.
Okay.
So Jody literally fills her basement, and Jody like she lives in this beautiful house in the desert. She fills her basement, which is like a grocery store, with basically an entire grocery store.
Yep. I forgot that that's how they ended up at that compound type house.
Yeah, well, they go back and forth,
Yeah.
which we'll get into. Ruby would talk about how her and Jody were meant to were meant to do God's will, and this was part of the plan.
Okay.
It's so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then, in May of 2021, Jody calls Ruby crying and wailing on the phone. She says, this is when things get weird.
Mm.
She says that she was being haunted by hooded shadow figures and that they would appear surrounding her bed at night.
Okay.
Yep. She said Satan had it out for her. And the Frankies believed it. So the family.
Is this when she started having her weird possession?
Yeah, we're going to get there.
Oh, I can't wait.
The family drives out to Jody's house to help her and give her support, okay? Remember, she has this beautiful, massive house in the desert.
Right.
Okay. So because of 2020, right, she was kind of, I think, it didn't really say this, but I kind of put it together. I think she was kind of like hermiting a little bit because she still had this like underground storage unit, which was basically her grocery store, and it had a bunch of survival stuff too. So like we went full, like more full blown into like zombie apocalypse type of survival stuff.
Right, right.
At this point, I don't know if you remember this part in the documentary when Kevin, this part, I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I shouldn't judge. Kevin starts to talk about like the demonic stuff that he saw around the house.
Mm.
And they go to help her. Do you remember this?
Yes.
He heard a big crash. There was no rhyme or reason for any big crash. Nothing had crashed. And there was like some weird handprint on the window that he expressed being demonic. Do you remember that part?
Yes.
They show the picture of the handprint.
Oh no.
And I'm literally looking at it and I'm like, I can't make out the fact that it's a handprint. But
Mm.
he's saying that it's this like long handprint and he feels like it's Satan. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So weird. So this is also the part where Jodi brings in her bishop to bless her and the house. Do you remember that part?
Yes, I remember this part.
So she brings her bishop in and he's trying to bless her in the house, and then he's like, I can't keep doing this. This is nuts. It's not working. So the Frankies say, okay, well, how about you come and stay with us at our place? So she literally moves back to the Frankies' home.
Yep.
What is wrong with this picture?
Every single thing, every single thing. If you can't buy my book, okay, I don't have a book, but if I did, if I can't make you buy my book, okay, the notion that you're going to move your therapist in with you, we've been asked to do all kinds of things that we would have loved to have done. I got asked to officiate a wedding, would have loved to have done it, couldn't do it. Like we get asked to do a lot of things and we have to make decisions all the time around the appropriateness of things. In no world, on no planet is this a good idea.
Correct.
Period.
Correct.
For also, what the hell are you doing bringing this person into your home when she's convulsing on the ground with the power of Satan in her or whatever you believe is happening? We're going to bring them home with the kids.
I know. Well, she's not doing that yet.
Still.
But yes, why are you bringing someone who's talking about demonic figures in your home with you?
Absolutely not. They have places for people who are experiencing that. Go to the church. That's the safest place you could go. Go be in the church. Sleep in the pulpit.
The hospital.
Unreal. The hospital.
Right?
The hospital.
It's just a whole thing.
I'm not bringing any of that crap.
Also,
don't start me nothing. I won't watch any of those movies. I don't mess with it. And you know what? I certainly wouldn't bring it into my home with my child. I'm sorry.
Hell no.
No.
That
save Jodi. That's more important than our 6 children.
Right. And no kidding. Also, Jodi, your license is already on probation and you're calling your clients, telling them that you are experiencing demonic things. Like what?
Okay.
Yeah. I had a hard enough time when my clients were, knew about the freaking flood because that was information that I was like, this is my trauma. I don't want to traumatize my clients with my trauma. Like,
no, and when it hit the news, I mean, you and I really talked about, okay, what do we do with this? Because we don't want them up in our business and we don't want them to feel responsible for any of our business. That's part of being a therapist.
Exactly. It's not theirs. It's not theirs. She should have pulled herself from being a therapist and gotten the help she needed. But no,
help you needed. And there's no shame in that either.
No. So I literally wrote, that would not be a thing for me. Just very calmly. That's what I wrote.
That would not be a thing for me.
That is not for me. So guess who else thought it was weird that they moved what's her face, Jodi, to their home? Do you remember this?
Well, I'm guessing the guy who used to work with her, maybe
he didn't know.
Neighbors.
It was Sherry.
Oh, yes. I forgot about this. The oldest daughter who really did understand some of what was happening.
Oh, Sherry was like, what is happening? So Sherry had to move out of her room, but she was leaving in 2 weeks from this point to go to college.
That's right.
Okay. So she was like, and she said, she was like, I thought it was weird that we're moving our therapist into our home. That's weird. But
Yeah, it's weird. Takes the oldest child to go, what?
to her, she was like, okay, like, I'm leaving anyway.
Uh-huh.
At this point, Chad had done all his work with Jodi, so he loves her.
Yeah.
He loves her and he wants her to get the help that she needs, right?
Yes.
So here's the other piece of this, and we're going to jump into your purity culture stuff. So when Jodi moved in, Chad was now behaving, right? Like he had worked on his behavioral stuff from a few years back or whatever. But the little ones, the little brother and sister, were quote unquote having the issues.
Oh,
Okay.
right. Uh-huh.
Remember that? So the little brother was talking back. The little sister was like, again, quote unquote, being rude at times.
Yeah.
And Ruby, I haven't talked about her in a minute, thought it was all based out of evil stuff,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So out of all of these kids, first of all, the younger ones, which we'll get into, are just,
Mm.
They don't know what's going on.
Mm.
And they're experiencing this emotional and verbal abuse and spiritual abuse. It's all spiritual too.
It is spiritual abuse. Yep.
Chad's like in love with Jodi because he just like she's like saved his life before, And Sherry's really the smart one,
Yeah, she is.
right? Sherry's like this, her spidey senses were on point. She was like, this is a weirdo mess.
And she really loves her siblings. I mean, you can really see that. Just
Yep.
that love and protectiveness that a big sister has.
Yep. Well, so then Sherry looks up Jodi
Mm.
and finds out that she's not a psychologist.
Mm-mm.
She's not a licensed psychologist. She's not a psychologist, and her license has been revoked.
Yep. And she had that complaint.
Or suspended or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? She reads all these reviews on her and basically how Jodi tore up all these other families. Piece by piece, like literally tore them apart.
Ugh.
When Sherry brought all this stuff up about Jodi's history and her license and all that, Jodi actually told the family already, hey, like, you're going to read these things about me if you look me up.
Oh, man.
Right? So she kind of got ahead of it before. So
she primed the pump a little bit like, hey, you might see some things. Nothing to see here.
Yes. And it's like, well, they were just hating, they blamed me for their issues, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Right. So she's still living at the house at this time. Okay. So Sherry's going to college. She's like, this shit's weird. She probably doesn't say it that way because she's holy. a good Mormon Christian girl.
Oh, yeah.
But shit's getting weird. And this is when Jodi starts to like convulse.
Yeah.
And have these quote unquote possessed trances.
Oh, this is the part.
This is the part.
When she's flailing around, like, what are those things at the car dealership?
I have no idea what they're called.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Uh-huh.
And the limbs are going, and this is her, and she's like, oh.
Yes.
I saw a hilarious TikTok about it.
Dude, she's ridiculous. And she says weird crap.
I've never seen demon possession, but I would bet a lot that it's not that.
No, and not here. Here, I have a whole theory on that stuff that you and I talk about a different day.
And mental health and in integration and all of it. Yeah, absolutely.
All of it. I have my own thoughts on that, but I will say I will spare us all.
You're going to have to tell me this weekend, though, because now you got me curious.
I know.
I want to know all of it.
But she would say weird stuff. She would say things like, she's mine, she knows. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, who's yours, girl? Who are you saying is yours? Ruby? Anyway.
Right. Because that's what we need. We need Ruby. Only Ruby.
Yes.
Only Ruby, who was once the student who has become the teacher.
Yes.
None of this makes any sense.
Makes zero sense.
Mm.
So Ruby believed that it was meant to be and that they were meant to help Jodi overcome her possession. They were literally exorcising the demons out of her or trying to. Girl, that is above my pay grade.
Mm-hmm.
If someone came in and they were like, I'm possessed, I would explore schizophrenia and I would explore all the mental health things. But if they start saying weird shit in weird voices,
Oh,
that's not mine.
no, listen.
That's above what I am capable
If
of
you
doing.
start doing that, I'm gonna hog tie you. I'm gonna take you somewhere.
Well, we can't hog tie clients.
No, but you. I'm talking about you. Somebody I love. Okay, so
Oh, okay.
let's say this is all real. Okay.
Mhm.
And you know me, man. You tell me once, that's all I need to know. Say less. We're gonna figure it out. If you are convulsing and saying weird shit and acting half the way this woman is, I'm gonna
Mhm.
hog tie you and I'm gonna take you to somebody who can help. Shaman, pastor,
Whatever.
hospital, wherever
Take
you're
me to the
going
hospital.
somewhere. Where you're not going is home with me.
No,
I don't love you that much. I'm not gonna move you into my house
but that's
with
what I'm
all your
saying, though.
nonsense.
That's
No,
what I'm saying. It's above my pay grade. If
it's
someone's
above my
doing this
pay
stuff,
grade. Yes.
someone's doing this stuff, I'm sorry. I'm calling 911 and your
Yes.
ass is getting hauled out. I'm sorry.
And you know what? Honestly, I don't believe 1 ounce of any of what's happening at this point.
No, no.
However, the best way that you can love someone if they are really in distress to this kind of degree or magnitude
Is get
is
them help.
not be the one to get them the help, like not be the one to do the help. Get them the
No,
right person or the right
yes.
people.
You call an ambulance.
Yeah, you don't take over
No.
in this situation. Now, I don't believe for 1 minute that
Mm-mm.
that's what this was, but okay.
No. Well, and I worked in ministry for years and never in my life,
No. Mm-mm.
never.
Mm-mm.
Kevin would literally command the demons to leave her.
I'd be
So
like, stay in and then get her out. Carry her out.
the spirits, quote unquote, were very reactive to the name of Jesus and she would like thrash around. It was a whole production.
Gracious.
And this happened for weeks.
Mhm, mhm.
So
I'll give it
then
to her. She was committed to her role. And
she
the
was.
academy goes to
Oh,
the
she was
academy
like
award goes to Jodi Hildebrandt.
she was in on this. Yes.
And maybe she was possessed, right? Allegedly she's making this up. I have
Allegedly she's yeah, allegedly for both. She's either allegedly possessed or allegedly making this up.
but she also
Oh.
was taking breaks long enough to have sex, most likely, allegedly, with Ruby. So there were gaps in the possession.
Well, not yet. They weren't there yet.
Oh, they were there.
I don't
She
think
didn't
so.
move her in. I don't think she moved her in until there was a little something going on. I really believe that.
No, I mean I agree, but I don't think they were like sleeping together yet. So because there's a part that talks about that kind of.
Yeah, but why move her into the room?
Well, they haven't done that yet.
Oh, this whole thing, it's so long.
That's what I'm
Terrible.
saying. They haven't done that yet.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. So she'd thrash around, blah, blah, blah. So then poor Kevin. Kevin's just a sad sack. I'm going to use your words.
Yes, that's my favorite. Sad sack.
Kevin's attempts were not working.
No.
Okay. Ruby would check on her at night. And that was when the possessions were getting worse. So
Oh, and
then,
Jodi didn't want Kevin there. Kevin was not helpful. Only Ruby.
correct. Then Ruby said that she's going to stay with her. So now we get into your theory, right?
100%.
She said if there were demons that she doesn't want to leave her alone and make her sleep alone. So she'd sleep in the bed with Jodi. So fucking weird. Sorry. Sorry, Tina.
Sorry, Tina.
So freaking weird.
Tina agrees. We talked about it today, but she just wouldn't say it that way.
He still went to the men's group, and Jodi somehow would show up to the men's groups and
Oh.
teach
And not Twitch?
and not twitch and not thrash.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Why?
So Kevin would still go. She still ran them, but then on her pastime, she would like thrash around,
Oh, yeah. And
right?
she's still like eviscerating Kevin.
Yes. Well, and at this point, she does turn it
She
against him.
turns on him. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
He goes from head of the group to we all stomp on him.
The bad guy. Yep.
Bad guy.
The neighbors talked to Sherry. Okay. And Sherry told the neighbors that Jodi was staying with them. And the neighbors were like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Happening? So now there's like more people getting involved of like, why is this happening? What is happening? This is weird. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now we fast forward a little bit to a point in time. This is around Christmas time. Okay.
Yeah.
You remember the part where, so Sherry comes home for Christmas, right? So she's at college, she comes home, and the two youngest kids don't get Christmas presents.
Mm. Oh, I do remember that.
Because they
Presents
had,
for everybody else, but the two littles.
correct, because they had quote unquote long patterns of selfishness.
Mm.
Yeah. So Ruby would keep them home. This is when shit just got real weird.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's already real weird, but it just gets worse. Like there's like no ending here of the chaos.
No.
So she would keep them home from school to wipe the floorboards
Oh.
to bring pain.
Oh.
Then she said, well, they were too numb to the pain, so they got no gifts.
Because
Can
the
you imagine?
pain wasn't having an impact anymore. So let's inflict more.
Correct.
So sad.
At one point, one of the daughters, the little daughter, her friend comes over to bring her a Christmas present, and Ruby makes her throw it away.
Oh
So
my.
the little girl goes to school, and the friend is like, oh my gosh, did you like the present? Did you like what I got you? And her friend is like, starts like tearing up. Or no, I'm sorry, Ruby's daughter starts tearing up, and she's like, I couldn't open it. I had to throw it away.
And the neighbor's like, this is weird. The parents of the little girl were like, what is
Parents of the
happening
little
over
girl.
there?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just so weird. Super, super weird. So Sherry, again, this confirms more of your theory. So Sherry's home for Christmas, obviously, and she can't sleep in her room because Jodi's still in her freaking room.
Oh my gosh.
So Sherry is sleeping in the room with her sisters. At one point, she goes into her bedroom to get something, and she sees massage oils, candles, and seems like there was way more going on there.
Oh yeah.
Like, she literally says that. She's like, yeah, they were probably doing some weird stuff.
She's pretty hip to this whole thing. That kid.
Yes. Yes. Oh, she's super smart.
Oh yeah.
So she definitely thought they were being intimate with each other. Kevin even said it was way more than a friendship or a sisterhood. Just weird. Jodi had basically embedded herself into their lives, and Kevin, shocker, began to feel pushed out. Right?
Yep.
So now we're fast forwarding a little bit to Chad again. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So gear up for your purity culture piece.
Oh yeah.
Chad, at this point, now decided, because he's still seeing Jodi as a therapist while she lives in their home, while she's possessed by demons, I think. It's a whole thing. Okay.
Oh my gosh. I just made the connection.
What?
I know that she was still showing up in group, and you were looking at me like, can you believe that? And I'm like, oh yeah. Now I'm like, oh, wait a minute. The family knows she's possessed and she's still doing therapy.
Yes.
How dumb do you have to be to go to a possessed therapist?
Dude, I love that the connection just happened.
It really did. It's been a
That
long
was like 10 minutes ago.
No, I know, but it like just really settled with me that not only are they still seeing her basically in a therapeutic way, maybe not Ruby, because Ruby's mostly emotional
partner.
support Ruby at this point, but they're letting their son see possessed therapist.
Yes. Well, and I should say, so their son, but also she was running the men's group while going through all her possession.
Yes, it was no one like, I don't know that you're fit to practice, ma'am.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I don't know if she was still having her weird convulsions when she started seeing Chad again.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, like there was no like significant like I am healed, like be healed, you know?
Oh yeah,
There
no,
was none of that.
no.
So we get to Chad. Okay. Chad confesses to Jodi about watching porn and making out with girls.
Cardinal sin.
I know. Poor kid.
That's way
This,
scarier than the demon writhing in the living room. But whatever.
yeah, no.
Priorities.
Right. Like this is
Better
this
not
is
be
the
making
thing.
out with the neighbor girl, and then meanwhile Jody is like,
Convulsing in the corner.
yeah, she's in a demonic trance in the living room. These people.
Oh,
You
I
can't make
hate
this shit up.
her.
You really can't make this shit up.
You can't, it's crazy.
Oh.
It's crazy. So Jodi tells him, you need to confess this to your mom.
Mm.
Okay. Ruby, he tells Ruby, Ruby's beside herself, crying, just super upset.
Oh no.
And then said that the demons that were tormenting Jodi were because of what Chad was doing. So because he's watching porn and making out with girls, he's inviting these demonic beings
Mm.
to their space and they latched on to Jodi, which is that's not how that works, but whatever.
No. Yeah.
Even if you like are really into all, whatever. Anyway, that's just not how that goes.
Yes.
So she gets a very straight face. So she goes from like bawling, super upset, to having this super straight face and kicks him out of the home.
Yes.
Also asks Kevin to leave. Okay. Thoughts?
So many. I have so many thoughts. Okay. Thought number one. It's all
Okay.
about sex. The whole thing is about purity culture and sex. Whole
Hmm.
thing. Because her thesis, women, sexuality,
Mhm.
whatever. I have a working theory that she actually had same-sex attraction, and this is all
Mm.
a massive
1000%.
projection, right? And so that's not acceptable. She's got to figure that out. And
Mhm.
there's also, financial motivators, whatever. But this whole thing is a really complicated purity culture dynamic because it started with the parenting thing. Like Ruby was trying to I believe in the beginning at least, try to be granted a bit of a legalistic
Mhm.
LDS mom. I
Mhm.
think she wanted good things for her family. Then it was like, oh, I'm cute. Oh, look, we have followers. Oh, whatever. And
Yeah,
the
yeah.
narcissism caught fire and it was a whole thing, right?
Whole thing.
Now, when you enter Jodi, I think Jodi is a dangerous human. And there's a lot of people who go into therapy. Honestly, therapists are some of the best people you'll ever meet and some of the scariest people you'll ever meet. It's just the truth.
1000%.
And I feel that more now at this point in my career than ever. So
Yes. Well, you and I've seen some sketchy stuff.
we've seen some real sketchy stuff. And so I think she was a really influential, sick, twisty human. I don't believe she was possessed. I think she created a lot of faux intimacy and then real physical intimacy with Ruby. But this whole thing, even Chad, so that really did break Ruby's heart that Chad was making out with girls and stuff. That's like the thing that she was the most afraid of. I think it's part of why she really severed ties with Kevin because I also think Kevin's pornography, whatever, the coerced confessions of Kevin also
Mhm.
were a problem for Ruby.
Yep.
But I really think those two having whatever weird thing they had,
Mhm.
that is a fundamental problem in their faith on
Yeah, yeah.
every level. If they had any kind of physical intimacy, it's a sin
Yep.
in their culture and in their faith. So
Yep.
all of this is we call it in psychology, I think, reaction formation. Do you know about
Mhm.
this?
Mhm.
It's a reaction formation. It's sort of like a really, really twisty version of a projection, which is
Yep.
I'm doing this really crazy thing, but I'm going to make everybody else the problem. And the
Yeah.
hypocrisy is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that kid, Chad, the oldest son,
Mhm.
truly felt like he was a problem when he moved out.
I
He
I
moved
know.
out and he honored all of the instructions to not contact the family, all of that. So as this, I know you're getting into kind of the end of the story, but
Yeah.
as this devolved, he was pretty absent at that point
Oh, 100%.
because he
Yeah.
felt like he'd done something wrong and inflicted harm in doing that.
Oh, he literally thought, I mean, he was bought into their whole narrative of
Oh, yeah.
evil and godly and all of it. He was totally bought in.
Oh, yeah.
And I have more empathy for him than I do Kevin, to be honest. Because he just wanted to do what was best, and he really put his trust in this therapist, and he's a kid. He's a teenager,
Yes.
you know? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. I didn't know where
Uh-huh.
you're going with that for a minute, but I agree.
Wait, I mean, I took the long route, but um, I have had that theory since I watched the documentary.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hmm.
I would agree with you. I mean, I didn't think about the whole purity culture piece of it necessarily, but
Yes.
after seeing what she studied and all that, I agree. And I do also, I mean, she has kids and an ex-husband who do not talk to her. Jodi does.
Yes.
So I think the same sex attraction, I think all of that same stuff.
Yep.
100%. So again, she kicks out Chad. She kicks out Kevin. She tells Kevin their marriage is in serious jeopardy
Yeah.
and that Kevin was holding her and Jodi back from how high God wants her to be because of his lustfulness,
Mm-hmm.
right? So again, blaming Kevin and Chad for them not being holy enough,
Yes.
which is insane.
Yes.
It's insane. So she kicks him out too, and he cannot have any contact with his kids. And he literally, Janine, he left. He left his family.
Mm.
What do you think about that?
I think
Is there anything in the world
mm-mm,
that would get you to leave your son?
absolutely not.
Okay.
Somebody could light me on fire or threaten to
Right.
light me on fire when I leave my son. No,
No.
absolutely not.
It's insane.
I
It's
think he
insane.
was taken apart brick by
Okay.
brick, but also, no.
No.
There's not
I
a
and
force on this earth that could keep me from my son. But there's also nothing that would make me expose my child to what these kids were
this
being
stuff.
exposed to.
Well, and the crappy thing is, it gets worse.
Yep. But Jody's need for comfort, Jody's need for salvation, Jody's need for anything was
Yep.
not more important than these children. And they needed their parents to protect them and insulate them.
And they didn't. Neither one of them did.
Nope. Not at all.
No. It just got so ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was about to say the weirdest part, all of this is weird, y'all. Every bit of this is so strange. But a weird part is Ruby's taking photos and videos documenting
Yes.
Kevin leaving their home and saying bye to their children.
Yep.
She's literally walking around with a camera
Yep.
as they are all crying and she's not.
No, she's not. There
Yeah.
was a little bit of almost satisfaction.
Oh, 100%. When he said, like she was doing this for views,
Yep.
for their channel, right? So
Yep.
Sherry, I love Sherry. I want to be her friend.
I know.
At this point was like, this is nuts. Right? So she expressed that she was worried about the younger kids. She didn't know what was going on. So after Chad and Kevin left, Ruby reaches out to her and says some nasty stuff. Okay.
Yep.
To Sherry. And Sherry gets removed from car insurance. She gets a notice that her health insurance is going to be ending. All this stuff. So she gets in her car and she drives over to the house. She's smart though. So she picks up her neighbor who she's confided in before. Right? She's the one this is the neighbor where Sherry told her, "Hey, yeah, this therapist lives with us. Also, she's our family therapist." Right. So this neighbor already kind of knows things are super weird. So Sherry goes and gets the neighbor to come with her to address whatever's happening in the family.
Yeah.
So they pull up, and the neighbor's name is Teresa, just for the record.
Okay.
They pull up, Ruby opens the door and told Sherry that Sherry had caused a lot of damage to the family and was no longer welcome, and that she's deceived and that she would be praying for her.
Mm,
Sherry is a college student
mm,
and is bawling
mm,
basically on their front door.
mm,
And Teresa was crying too.
mm.
Guess who wasn't crying?
Ruby.
Yeah.
Mm,
Ruby just looked like she had no emotion. She just told her daughter, "You're deceived and I'll be praying for you, but you're no longer in this family."
yeah.
So Sherry's kicked out,
Mm.
right?
And
Okay.
Sherry said, and this is important, you and I talked about this. Sherry showed a picture of her mom from earlier in her life
Yes.
and basically said, that's not my mom.
Yeah.
Meaning Ruby in front of her and showing the picture of younger Ruby
Yeah.
with her and saying, that's my mom.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point in the story, Kevin and Chad are out of the house and Sherry's disowned. So who do we have left? The four younger kids.
Mm,
I know. So Ruby goes into all this stuff. I'm not even going to read everything that I have here because it's just so much. This is when a lot of the videos start to get super weird and very culty, very abusive,
mm,
like not directly abusive, but insinuating abuse.
yes.
She says things like, how your woke kids are walking zombies and you have the opportunity to wake your zombies up. Jodi says weird stuff around kids have hurts and fears, resentments, and feelings of entitlement and how they have to, basically get that worked out of them.
Mm,
All this kind of crazy stuff.
yeah.
And Ruby would make her four kids, young kids, watch these videos of Jodi saying all this stuff. So these kids went from like being bubbly and kid-like to just totally withdrawn and isolated,
Mm,
right? A neighbor at one point saw Ruby in the yard and asked her why Kevin and Chad left. And she literally says every marriage should have a separation. It
mm,
could be 1 year, it could be 5 years, right?
mm,
So she is just on a different planet in her brain,
yeah.
right? At this point, it's basically almost been a year. He is being compliant with what she told him to do. He has not talked to any of his kids. At one point, Sherry texted her dad like a really sweet text message. And
Mm,
you know how you can like heart things now?
yeah.
He hearted it and then unhearted it because he just was like, I have to be compliant with what Ruby told me to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, up to here, the whole story is heartbreaking, but like it just continues to get worse. What's crazy, Janine? I didn't put this together. I'm pretty sure Jodi's house was in St. George, which is where I was when I went to Utah.
Oh,
That's where we stayed, was St. George.
oh, interesting.
Uh-huh. Because I was like, St. George, why does that sound familiar? It's because I'm pretty sure that's where we stayed when we went to Zion.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Ruby continues her insanity. Then they go to St. George, which is where Jodi's house is. Okay. So Ruby would leave for days on end without the kids and go stay at Jodi's house.
Oh my gosh. And leave them in the house in the neighborhood, like the subdivision.
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
And neighbors were seeing this. Like neighbors were concerned. Here's the other piece of this that drove me a little nuts at first, and people started to get involved as time went.
Yeah.
But what drove me nuts is they would like the neighbors would call Sherry and be like, "Hey, your siblings are left home alone, blah blah." So Sherry calls the police to have
Yeah.
a welfare check
Yeah.
done. If I'm one of the freaking neighbors and I'm seeing this, I'm gonna go knock on the door. I'm gonna also be calling the police. I'm not gonna call Sherry to do the work for me. I'm gonna call Sherry and tell her what's going on,
100%.
but I'm also gonna be calling 911.
Yes,
There's gonna be
absolutely.
numerous reports of this insanity.
Absolutely.
Because you and I both know a call from one person one time sometimes doesn't get CPS or anyone moving very fast.
Yep.
But if they have numerous calls about the same thing, then they move a little bit faster,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
So some of the people also texted Kevin about cops being at the house. Kevin never responded.
Hmm.
What would Gare do
Oh.
if people text him and said, "Hey, we haven't seen Janine. There's cops at your house."
Oh my God. I mean, there's not a wall he wouldn't come through. There's not a
Right.
you know what I mean? Like he'd be there in 5 seconds.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The crappy thing was the kids weren't answering the door and the police couldn't go inside because they didn't have a warrant. Right?
I have such strong opinions about this.
What are they?
Mm.
I know it's bad.
It's so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm.
And here's the thing. They were still posting a bunch of videos while these concerns were happening. So like Ruby's posting videos
Yeah.
while everyone's like concerned about the kids.
Mm.
Then there were more calls to the police. Another neighbor was interviewed and were asked if they saw physical abuse, or I'm sorry, the interviewers in this documentary interviewed another neighbor, and she said the police had asked her, like, did you see any physical signs of abuse? And at that time, the neighbor said no, but she wishes she lied because of how bad it got, right? So y'all, we're getting close to the end. Hang in there with me.
Mm.
So now we get to August of 2023.
Mm.
Okay. This is where we started in part one,
Yeah.
when Jodi gets ripped out of her house
Yep.
because the police are called.
Yep. And when we say ripped out of that, I mean they freaking pulled her through the front door.
Oh, they
They were
pulled her
like,
right out.
"Hi,
Yeah. And she's like, I'm calling my lawyer. They're like, we don't give a shit.
we don't care.
Call.
We're gonna grab you by the arm. You can call down on your drive."
Call whoever you want to call, girl.
Yeah,
Like
they
your ass
removed
is
her
grass.
immediately. And finally, I mean, I was happy to see that too, because I was like,
Yeah.
get her out of there.
Yeah. So I'm going to still describe this scene, even though I'm guessing most humans in the world saw this on the news.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is the younger boy, who's 12, escaped Jodi's home and went to the neighbors.
Mm.
Okay. The kiddo, I don't know his name, went to the neighbors and asked if they could do two favors for him. And the neighbor was like, okay, yeah, what's up? So then the kid goes, well, actually, just one favor. Can you take me to the police station?
Mm.
The neighbor says, why? Like, what's going on, son? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, it's personal business.
Personal business.
He's
But
12. He's 12 years old.
oh.
The neighbor then calls the cops and says a 12-year-old boy showed up on his doorstep. He was emaciated
Mm.
with duct tape around each ankle
Ugh.
and wrist and said he was hungry and thirsty.
Mm.
He escaped through the porch of the neighbor's house,
Mm.
right? And then this is what the man said on the phone. He said, the boy has been, and then the neighbor starts crying.
Mm.
You remember that part?
Mm-hmm.
So he says, the boy has been, he starts crying, and he says, he's been detained and is covered in wounds.
Mm.
I don't know if you saw the photos that they showed very briefly in
Yeah.
the documentary. They're terrible.
Yeah, oh, they're really bad.
They're absolutely terrible of the tape,
Mm.
of how skinny he is. I mean, he's pure bone.
I'm like, why not just, and this is going to sound insane, but kill the kids, to torture them and keep them like this. To
Well, that was their goal.
Well,
That
that
was,
was the goal. And I honestly believe that that boy saved he and his sister's life. Just
oh
did.
yeah. You and the police say that. They
100%. I
said
mean,
that in the
I
documentary.
really believe that, but oh my gosh.
So, I mean, and we'll get there because she says some crazy stuff in one of her journals.
Mm,
But the police say you could see the tendons in his ankles.
mm,
You could like see his Achilles tendon, all of it.
mm.
So then they ask, are there other kids? And he says, yes, he has a sister in there, but he hasn't seen her for about a month.
Oh no.
So the police go to Jody's, and this is when they just, bring out their badassness and they rip her out of her front door. She's like, I'm on the phone with my attorney. You
Mm,
don't have a warrant. And they're like, yeah, we don't need one at this point, lady. Like,
no,
the evidence is on your neighbor's doorstep, you dummy,
absolutely.
you know? So they searched the house and they found his little sister in another room in
Mm,
the basement. Okay. And remember, Jody's basement is like a cellar.
mm.
It's crazy, right? It's like underground, it's a whole
Yeah.
thing. So they find the young girl. She has a shaved head. So she looks like they say, she looks kind of like a little boy. She's super skinny, just like her brother, and she wouldn't talk to them.
Uh,
And this was Ruby's youngest daughter.
mm,
They also found a safe and they asked Jody for the combo, and she's like, I don't know the combo, whatever.
mm,
So they asked Jody for the combo. She says she doesn't know it. Well, they just guess and they do like 1, 2, 3, 4, literally, and get the safe open. Guess
mm,
what was in the safe?
mm.
You don't remember what was in the safe?
No.
Handcuffs,
Oh yeah.
rope,
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
medical dressing for wounds that had blood on them.
Yep.
And also cayenne pepper and
That's
paste.
yeah. I remember seeing it on the counter. I forget that it was in the safe.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. So they still didn't know where the other two middle daughters were. 'Cause remember, there were four kids that were still with them.
yes.
They did end up finding them. They were at a friend's house of Ruby's, and they were physically okay.
Yeah,
They
I was
were,
gonna say they looked physically healthy to a degree, as far as you can tell.
yeah, they didn't really show them, but they said that, right? They were
Yeah.
like, they were not as abused as the two little ones.
Oh yeah.
So at this point, okay, Ruby decides to call her husband
Mm,
and says, hey, you got to go get our kids. Please go get our kids because um the two little ones are possessed and um what did she say? She basically told Kevin the two little ones are possessed. You need to go pick them up from the police station. Or no, she's talking about their son, sorry. Their son was taken to the police station and because he's possessed, there's no way of them knowing what kind of lies the little boy is saying.
mm,
Can you believe that?
mm.
So,
Why do you just give it up? You know what I mean?
dude, I don't know.
Mm,
So he goes and he goes to the police station, walks in and is like, I'm here to pick up my kids. Yeah, my kids. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not how this is gonna work.
totally.
Right? Like your kids are basically dead.
Mm.
Like a couple more days they would have I think they would have been dead within a day or two.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So he's not talking. He thinks the police are manipulating him. He doesn't feel like they're telling him the truth. They
Mm,
literally tell him the physical and emotional state his kids are in, and he does not believe them. They offer to show him pictures. He will not look at the pictures
mm,
of his kids.
mm,
That's crazy to me.
mm.
So he's sitting there and he's like, they're just manipulating me.
Mm.
Then they interview Ruby. She won't talk,
Mm.
but she does these blinks where they're really long blinks,
Yeah.
like this, where she's just like
Mm.
closes her eyes and then opens them,
Mm-hmm.
closes her eyes and then opens them. She's
Mm-hmm.
not even like blinking.
Yeah, it's weird.
Super weird. And then she says she wants to lawyer up, so that happens. And then Jodi is just having a freaking heyday.
Mm.
And she's like, well, I want to talk to you guys because I have nothing to hide, but my attorney's telling me not to talk to you guys. But I really, I haven't done anything wrong, and I'm usually on your side of the thing.
Your side. I'm usually on your side of the table. That's what she said. Like, I'm like you guys. I'm
I'm a psychologist.
a
I'm the one who
psychologist.
usually, yeah, I'm the
Inaccurate.
one who people don't want to tell the thing to. So I get you, and I'm not trying to be difficult. She's a whole freaking vibe.
Oh no, she totally is.
So then freaking
Yep.
Chad, also hasn't seen his family in like over a year.
Yep.
You remember how he finds out about all this?
Well, yeah, he gets a phone call. Oh no, Chad. Dad calls him.
No, before dad calls. You remember?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I watched it. I didn't take notes.
His boss is like, hey, whatever you need, let us know. We're so sorry that like your family's stuff
Oh,
is
because it was
all
on the
over the
news.
news.
Oh, that's right. And then he talks to his dad.
Yeah, so then he looks up the news, he
That's
Googles his
right.
mom's name, and then reaches out to dad.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So insane. So insane,
So insane.
right?
Yeah.
And again, Chad still thinks that Jodi and Ruby have like hung the moon and that they are like godlike, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, some of the things, again, I'm not going to go into all the detail because it's gruesome and painful.
Oh yeah, no.
We're just going to say the 12-year-old, specifically the 12-year-old and the young girl, were significantly abused.
Mm.
We're not going to go into all of the crazy details of the type of abuse that happened because we all want to sleep.
Right. We do.
What I'll say is it was horrific stuff.
Mm.
And what police found was a blue folder,
Mm.
and Ruby had written down everything that she did,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All of the abuse that she put him through, and genuinely thought, especially her son, it didn't say much about the daughter that was abused,
Mm.
but especially her son was possessed by a demon. But she does say that she thought both of them were.
Mm.
She literally told her son he emulates a snake, and if he wants to emulate the Savior, he has to be 100% obedient with exactness.
Mm.
The body must engage in good work, and the good works must be painful.
Mm.
Okay. So, a little quick note about the LDS religion. Um, so there's a belief, an old school belief, that no unclean thing can go to heaven. So she's trying to cleanse her children,
Mm.
right?
Well,
So
and their behavior is devolving as they're being traumatized and abused, which is
correct,
almost starting to mirror Jody's demonic
correct,
possession. So it's like this weird cyclical thing. Like if
correct,
you treat a human like an animal for so long, they start to act like an animal, you
correct.
know? Yeah.
Yes. So she wrote in her journal, I pushed him into the sun. So he had to stand in the sun all day at
Mm.
times. I pushed him into the sun. He came back, so I poked him with a cactus poker. When
Mm.
I poked his back to get back into the sun, he didn't even flinch, which to her meant that he's a demon.
Mm.
I told him, give your demon friend, told her son, I told him, give your demon friend a message for me. I will not rest. I will not stop. I will not leave. I will fight him until the day you die.
Mm.
She says that to her 12-year-old son.
Mm.
I cannot. This makes me so angry.
Mm.
So she writes all that in her journal. The police see this and they're like, what the heck is happening?
Oh,
Right?
yeah. Yeah.
So then Chad and Kevin meet up, okay? And they're still under this spell. Long story short, they're still under this spell. Chad or Kevin is like, the younger kids are possessed. And so then Chad is like, well, I accepted the abuse because I thought it was the right thing to do because they were possessed. So it's this whole freaking thing, okay?
Yeah.
Well, then the neighbors come over
Mm,
and they start to talk to Kevin.
mm,
And they start to make it real clear to Kevin of what was happening.
mm.
Kevin starts to wake up all of a sudden. He's like, oh my God, 20 minutes
Finally.
later, I
Finally.
have an epiphany.
Oh, Kevin.
I know I can't with him. He's literally like sitting there and he's like crying and he's like, oh my gosh, this has been deceitful. Everything's a lie. I'm like, this all happened in 10 minutes, bro?
Oh, no. Oh, he's the worst.
Really?
Yeah.
This is why I can't with Kevin, though.
Well, because his first issue when all of this happened was, I need to go get the kids. And he believed her. He still
Yes.
believed her initially. And I know, like, eventually he starts to get his ducks in a row. But even at the end, I still don't think he fully gets it. And I'm not 100% sure he wouldn't have taken her back had she not been incarcerated.
1000%. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is the neighbors start to like quote unquote piece this together for him, and all of a sudden
Oh my gosh.
his eyes are awoken.
It all makes sense.
Literally.
Oh, that's frustrating.
So he's talking and he's like, and then he's like, and then I look at Chad and I'm like, we've been lied to. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't with you.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't. He's super frustrating.
Well, yeah, he just plays this big victim role, and I'm sorry. I know
Yeah.
he was kind of a victim. He was whatever. He was manipulated by Jodi,
Yes.
but I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. Your eyes don't wake up in 10 minutes from this like years and
Your
years.
eyes don't wake up. I love you.
They don't. Your brain, your eye, you don't wake up in 10
No.
minutes and say, wow, the last 12 years, 15
Yeah.
years of my life have been a lie. That
Yeah.
doesn't happen in 10 minutes
No, you're right.
because the neighbors come over and say, dude, this is what was going on.
Oh, yeah, no.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then he looks at his son and he's like, Chad, I'm so sorry. Anyway,
That's so annoying.
I can't with them.
Ah,
So that's kind of the whole story, right? Judy, basically, Jodi and Ruby both pled guilty to child abuse felonies, thank the Lord. They were sentenced to 30 years in prison. Okay. Which I'm like, they deserve more.
I don't know. I don't think they should ever come out.
No. No.
Menace to society.
Yes.
A menace.
Chad, poor Chad. I do feel for Chad because he lost a lot in this. He lost a therapist that he like confided in. He lost a mom.
He lost a therapist.
Well, I'm not talking about Kevin. I'm talking about Chad.
Oh, yeah, okay. I still hate Kevin. No, Chad. I feel really bad for Chad.
I
All
feel bad
Chad
for
ever
Chad.
did was make out with a girl.
And watch pornography.
And okay, yeah.
But poor Chad, he was like, it was heartbreaking to see my mom in handcuffs. And
That
I'm
is
like,
bad.
homegirl deserved worse, but I get it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
Sherry is just totally over Ruby's shit. She's like, yeah, bye. Bye bye.
Oh, she's been over it.
Oh yeah. She's like, see you never, mom.
Yeah,
Right?
oh, for sure. And says I will never talk to her again.
Oh yeah, no, she says she literally said, we have one childhood and one mom, and that was mine.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, and she talked about how her mom made contact with her and basically talked about, like, what did she apologize for? Not spending enough time. Did you see that? It was something like she apologized for missing time with her or something like that. And she goes, that's the thing? That's the thing you're gonna apologize for?
Oh
Okay, cool.
no, I didn't see that. That's crazy.
Cool. Yeah, it was something like that.
Oh yeah. No, thank you.
Mm-mm-mm.
I want to see more of Sherry. Sherry's coming out with like a whole bunch of stuff on family vlogging, and I want to read, like,
Yeah.
if she writes a book, I want to watch a lot of her stuff,
Well,
her
it's hard
interviews
because
and
kids
stuff.
can't consent to that stuff. And then all their
Yeah.
little kid memories are out there. It's just very weird,
It's very invasive.
very invasive, and almost always damaging. It's one thing to share a little bit about your kids, but
Hmm.
it is another thing to like record every moment. You're not
Hmm.
present anymore.
No,
And oh, when she's sitting with them, like, do it again. Do it. I mean, it's like she's filming a damn TV show.
I know.
It's just, it's not okay.
Oh, it's painful.
Mm.
So Sherry says that, which I'm like, good for you, girl. Like, she's not a victim, she is a survivor for sure.
Oh, she's a survivor for sure.
Chad says, I miss a mother figure. I miss who she was, talking about Ruby.
Mm.
When I was young, I think what she is going through is deserved. That does not mean that I don't have love for her. So Chad is still dancing between this, like, I love my mom, but also that was terrible, and what she did was terrible.
Yeah.
Kevin, I can't with Kevin. I literally quoted him. Okay.
I'm gonna be mad, huh?
The interview, well, you saw it.
Yeah,
The
but I meant not.
interviewer goes, yeah, he's just an idiot. The interviewer goes, asked him, do you still love her? And he goes, definitely. I always loved her. And then the interviewer goes, even though she abused the kids, you still love her. He literally says, oh, yeah, the actions she did are atrocious, but I still feel a longing. I miss her. Ugh.
Ugh.
All of the all of the delivery rooms, the holding our children, it's easy for the world to hate that woman. And so many people want me to join in that chorus. And I cannot turn off all of those memories. Kevin,
Kevin, you weenie.
you sad sack. Move
Yeah,
on.
I love that so much.
I know.
I love a good sad sack.
I just can't with him. He literally saying this, and I'm like, and you know what?
At what point though do
Right.
you go like, I wouldn't choose you again, lady?
Right.
But it's like,
And like, I always loved her, even after she abused the kids. Oh, yeah. Like, bro, there are different words you could say.
oh, yes.
Different words that you could say.
Yep.
So, all of this being said, I know this is a long episode, y'all. We probably should have cut this into 3,
Oh my gosh.
but
I can't do a third episode of these people.
no, it would be too much.
Only
It's
if
like,
it focused on the children's resilience. That I would listen to, but the adults need
oh, I
to
love that. Yes.
the
Maybe
adults need to go away. I'm over it.
I know, the adults just piss me off.
100%.
So you said at the very beginning you have a theory on diagnosis for Jodi. I am curious of what this is.
Okay. I think a couple of things. I do think that she had a situation going on with her sexuality, the integration of her
Mm-hmm.
sexual identity and her religion and faith.
Mm-hmm.
She is a malignant personality. And so she's got that cluster B personality disorder stuff going on, and Jodi and Ruby has some of that too. And
Mm-hmm.
then I also think that Kevin has characteristics of dependent personality disorder, which we don't see as often in
Interesting.
men. And so there's a little bit of a constellation of personality disordered behavior. So again, I'm not diagnosing them. I've never met them. I have
Right.
very limited information, and everything I know is bad. So
Yes.
and there's a lot of trauma too that would need to be sifted through before anyone could make a diagnosis. But I will say this feels like, and we talk about this in some of our episodes, one of those catastrophic cases where personality disorder meets personality disorder meets personality disorder. Like there's dysfunction in all three of these people, and it was a perfect storm. And we know now that Jodi was doing this to other families, but in this particular case, Ruby and Kevin were also sick
Yes.
and really twisty in their own ways. So instead of taking control of a family and maybe it burning out, or someone gets involved, or grandma comes home and goes, get the fuck out of the house, whatever.
Right.
In this particular case, it was 3 very sick people and a bunch of helpless children.
Yes. Yes. A
So,
bunch of them. 6 of them.
what a nightmare. 8
Yes.
passengers, 8 passengers in the crazy.
Yep. I would agree with your diagnoses on each of them.
Yes.
I think I don't have a lot of heart pieces for Jodi or Ruby or even Kevin. I appreciate what you've shared about
Well,
your
it's true. That doesn't mean that it's
justifiable.
defensible.
Yeah.
Like his behavior, there's a lot of people who've been traumatized who don't do the crap that these people did.
No, and you don't leave your family. It's just insane to me.
No.
So I think for me, the heart piece is honestly, obviously, all the kids and the resilience that they have, each of them. I mean, for that boy to escape,
Yes.
get help, and for I'm sitting here thinking like he's 12. If Kevin and Chad are this brainwashed, how is a 12-year-old not that brainwashed?
Oh, for sure.
But he goes and gets help and saves him and his sister's life.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then I think of Sherry, and she's just this little badass.
Well, that's the thing. Like this kid broke free and went and got help.
Yeah.
Kevin had his faculties, his driver's license,
Yes.
some money, some
Yes.
autonomy, and he wasn't even in the middle of all of it at that time. He was living independently.
This is why I can't stand Kevin.
I know, I get it.
This is also why it's hard for me. And normally I feel like I'm the one that's like, okay, I'll have some empathy for like the reader or whatever, and I just don't have it.
I understand that. I think
I
that
just
makes
don't
sense.
have it. I'm
Very
like
hard to do.
a 12-year-old saved him and his sister's life, and their freaking dad can't even do the thing.
Yep, I agree.
I just have zero tolerance for that.
I agree.
So I think for me, the heart is just the kids and their resilience. And I honestly pray, I genuinely pray for each of them, especially the young ones who were subjected to the most abuse.
I agree.
I just really hope that they are supported and have the help that they need to continue to build resilience and heal from this experience.
And again, see something, say something, be about it. You see something weird in your neighborhood
Yes.
or your neighborhood compound, maybe make some phone calls because this went on for a really long time.
Way too long.
Years.
Way too long.
Went on for years. Yeah. Well, thanks, Nat. What a doozy.
I know this was a long one.
It's a doozy. Well, thank you. Thank you all for joining us so much. And we will see you next time. As always,
bye, forensic friends.
I'm Janine.
And I'm Nat.
And as always, thanks for listening and join us next week for more crime, psychology, and heart.